The signal came from the dark edge of the galaxy. It was weak, broken, and filled with static, but the meaning was clear to anyone who heard it. "Help us, please, they are killing us." The relay station that caught the signal was old. It floated in empty space, far from any planet, doing its simple job of listening. For 300 years it had heard nothing important: trade messages, weather reports, the boring talk of peaceful species going about their peaceful lives. But this message was different. This message was a scream. The station's computer flagged it as urgent and sent it to the Galactic Union headquarters on the planet Nexus Prime. Within 1 hour, every council member had heard the recording. Within 2 hours, they had gathered in the Great Hall to decide what to do. The hall was enormous. Its ceiling rose so high that clouds sometimes formed inside it. Representatives from 47 species sat in floating chairs, arranged in a perfect circle. Some were tall and thin like walking sticks. Others were round and soft like living pillows. A few floated in water tanks because they could not breathe air. None of them were built for war. Ambassador Lyell of the Velari stood at the center of the circle. She was small, barely reaching the waist of most other species. Her skin was pale blue, almost transparent, and her bones were hollow like a bird's. When she spoke, her voice was soft and musical. "The Krath have invaded our colony on Velari 7, she said. 3 million of my people live there, lived there." She paused. Her large eyes filled with tears that floated away in the low gravity. "The Krath landed 5 days ago. They have been hunting us." A murmur spread through the council. The Krath were known to everyone. They were a predator species from a harsh world. They stood twice as tall as the Velari, with thick scales and claws designed for killing. For centuries, the Galactic Union had kept them contained to their home system through trade agreements and careful diplomacy. But something had changed. The Krath had grown bold. "How many Krath are there?" asked a council member. "Our last report counted 2,000 warriors," Lyell answered. "They brought ships and weapons. We have nothing to fight them with. My people are not. We cannot." She did not finish. Everyone understood. The Velari had no military. They had no weapons. They were a species of artists, musicians, and scientists. The thought of violence made them physically ill. "We must send a peacekeeping force," said another council member, a tall being with 6 arms. "What force?" someone else replied. "The Union has no army. We have police ships for small crimes. We have diplomats for disagreements. We have nothing for this." The argument grew louder. Species blamed each other for the lack of preparation. Some said they should negotiate with the Krath. Others said negotiation was pointless with predators. Ambassador Lyell stood silently in the center, watching her people die in her mind. Then an old voice spoke. It came from a small creature in a floating chair near the back. His name was Elder Tobin, and he was the oldest member of the council. His species lived for 1,000 years, and he had seen much in his time. "There is one option we have not discussed," he said. The hall went quiet. Everyone turned to look at him. "The Deathworlders," Elder Tobin said. The silence became heavier. Some council members looked away. Others made sounds of fear or disgust. "You cannot be serious," said the 6-armed being. "They are savages. They come from a world that should not support life." "And yet it does," Elder Tobin replied, "and they thrive there." Everyone in the council knew about Earth. It had been discovered 30 years ago during a routine survey mission. The survey team had lasted 6 hours on the surface before fleeing in terror. Earth was a nightmare world. Its gravity was crushing, nearly 10 times what most species could tolerate. Its temperature swung wildly between burning heat and freezing cold. Its atmosphere contained a gas called oxygen that was poisonous to half the galaxy. And worst of all, every single living thing on the planet was designed to kill. The plants were toxic. The insects carried disease. The animals hunted each other in an endless cycle of death. And somehow in this hellscape, intelligent life had evolved. Humans, they called themselves. The survey team's reports were classified at the highest level. They described beings of incredible density and strength, beings with forward-facing eyes like predators, beings that could run for hours without stopping, heal from wounds that would kill any other species, and survive conditions that would destroy anyone else. Earth was quarantined immediately. Humans were too dangerous to allow into the galaxy. They were to be watched from a distance, studied, but never contacted. Until now. The humans are confined for good reason, said a council member. Releasing them into the galaxy could be catastrophic. The Krath are already catastrophic, Elder Tobin replied. The question is simple. Would you rather face the predators we know or ask for help from the predators we don't? Ambassador Lyell stepped forward. Her small body trembled, but her voice was steady. My people are dying, she said. 3 million lives, children, families. I do not care if the humans are monsters. I do not care if they frighten you. If there is any chance they will help, we must ask. The vote took less than 10 minutes. It was not unanimous, but the majority agreed. A message would be sent to Earth. The transmission was short. It contained the distress signal from Velari 7, a map of the location, and a single question. Will you help us? On Earth, it was night in the city of Seoul. A man named Tiho sat alone in his apartment, drinking tea and watching rain fall against his window. He was 32 years old, with short black hair and a scar that ran from his eyebrow to his jaw. 3 years ago, he had been a commander in the Special Forces. Now he was retired, living quietly, trying to forget the things he had done. His phone rang. He did not recognize the number, but something made him answer. Commander Park Tiho, said a voice. It belonged to General Kim, his former superior. I'm not a commander anymore, Tiho replied. You are now, General Kim said. We've received a message from space, from aliens. Tiho said nothing. He waited. They're asking for help, the general continued. Something is attacking them, killing them. They want us to send soldiers. The rain continued to fall. Tiho watched it without blinking. Why me, he asked. Because you're the best we have, General Kim answered. And because you're the only one crazy enough to say yes. Tiho thought about his quiet apartment, his tea, his peaceful life. Then he thought about the message. Someone somewhere was screaming for help. Someone was dying. He had tried to escape violence. He had tried to become something other than a weapon. But maybe that was not his choice to make. Maybe some people were born to protect others, whether they wanted to or not. When do I leave? Tiho asked. Across the galaxy, the Velari waited in their bunkers. The Krath hunted in the streets, and Earth began to wake up. The Deathworlders were coming. The world changed in a single night. News spread across every channel, every website, every phone. Aliens were real. They had sent a message, and they were begging humanity for help. Some people panicked. Some people celebrated. Some refused to believe it at all. But in a military base deep in the mountains outside Seoul, there was no time for any of that. There was only work to be done. Tiho arrived at the base before sunrise. Armed guards checked his identification 3 times before letting him through. Inside, the hallways buzzed with activity. Scientists ran past carrying tablets. Officers shouted orders into phones. Everyone moved with the nervous energy of people who had not slept in days. General Kim waited for him in a secure briefing room. The old man looked tired. His uniform was wrinkled and his eyes were red. Thank you for coming, the general said. You didn't give me much choice, Tiho replied. General Kim smiled weakly. I never do. He pressed a button and the lights dimmed. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed a planet, blue and green, covered in strange patterns that might have been cities. This is Velari 7, General Kim explained. Population 3 million, Or it was before the attack. The image changed. Now it showed another species. They were tall, scaled, with long arms and claws like knives. Their eyes were small and dark, set deep in armored skulls. These are the Krath. They invaded 5 days ago. According to the alien transmission, there are approximately 2,000 of them on the planet. Tiho studied the image. The Krath looked dangerous, built for killing, but he had faced dangerous things before. "What do we know about them?" he asked. "Almost nothing," General Kim admitted. "The aliens included some data in their message. The Krath come from a planet with low gravity, about half of Earth's. They're strong by galactic standards, but their bones are less dense than ours. They're adapted to a mild climate. Extreme temperatures might affect them." Weaknesses. Unknown, but here's the interesting part. General Kim zoomed in on the alien data. According to this, humans are classified as a Class 7 threat species. The Krath are Class 4. Tiho raised an eyebrow. "What does that mean?" "It means they're scared of us. The whole galaxy is scared of us. They think Earth is a death world. They think we're monsters." For a moment, neither man spoke. Tiho thought about that. His whole life he had lived on Earth. It was home. It was normal. He had never considered that to someone else it might be terrifying. "How many people do you need?" General Kim asked. Tiho considered the question carefully. 12, he said. "Small team, fast movement. Any more would be hard to coordinate." "You can have anyone you want. Every special forces unit in the world has volunteered." "I already know who I need." Tiho spent the next 12 hours making calls. Some people answered immediately. Others took longer to convince. By midnight, his team was assembled. Yuna arrived first. She was 28 years old, with sharp eyes and steady hands. Tiho had worked with her 3 years ago during a hostage rescue. She had performed surgery in a moving helicopter while under enemy fire. When she heard about the mission, she packed her medical kit and drove straight to the base. "Aliens," she said when she saw Tiho. "Real aliens." "Real aliens," he confirmed. "And they need a doctor. They need someone who can keep people alive when everything is trying to kill them." Yuna smiled. "Then I'm your person." Minyu came next. He was 29, tall and broad, with the build of someone who could carry heavy loads for long distances. He specialized in heavy weapons and had a reputation for being calm in situations that made other soldiers panic. "Is it true?" he asked. "We're going to space." "We're going to save people," Tiho said. "The space part is just transportation." Minyu laughed. "Good enough for me." Hana arrived from a university in Busan. She was 34, a scientist who had spent her career studying languages and communication. When the alien message came, she had been one of the first to help decode it. She was not a soldier, but she understood something important. The team would need someone who could talk to the aliens. "I've never held a gun," she admitted. "You won't need to," Tiho told her. "Your job is to help us understand them, and to help them understand us." Do-Yun was an engineer, 26 years old, brilliant and slightly crazy. He could build explosives from kitchen supplies and disable security systems in his sleep. The military had tried to recruit him for years, but he had always refused. This time was different. "Space," he said, eyes bright with excitement. "Real alien technology. How could I say no?" Sara was the pilot. 31 years old, with more flight hours than anyone in the Korean Air Force. She had flown jets, helicopters, and experimental aircraft that had never been released to the public. When she heard they needed someone to fly an alien ship, she volunteered before anyone could finish explaining. "I've landed planes with one engine on fire during a typhoon," she said. "I think I can handle whatever they throw at me." The rest of the team arrived throughout the night. 6 more soldiers, each chosen for their specific skills. By morning, all 12 were assembled in the briefing room. Tiho stood before them. He looked at their faces and saw no fear, only determination. "I'm not going to lie to you," he began. "This mission is unlike anything we've ever done. We're going to another planet. We're going to fight an enemy we've never seen, and we might not come back." No one moved. No one looked away. The aliens who sent the message, they're not warriors. They're peaceful, gentle. They've never had to fight because the galaxy was supposed to be safe, but it's not safe anymore. Something is hunting them, something is killing them, and they have no one else to ask. Tiho paused. He thought about the transmission, the fear in those alien voices, the desperation. "They called us Deathworlders," he continued. "They think we're monsters because we come from a world that would kill them in minutes. They're afraid of us, but they're more afraid of dying, so they reached out to the scariest thing they could find." He looked at each team member in turn. "Maybe we are monsters. Maybe Earth did make us into something the galaxy has never seen. But that doesn't mean we have to be evil. Monsters can protect. Monsters can save. And right now, 3 million people are counting on us to be the kind of monsters that fight for them." The room was silent. Then Minu spoke. "So when do we leave?" The ship that would carry them was not from Earth. It had been sent by the Galactic Union, a small transport vessel designed for emergencies. It sat in an underground hangar, looking like nothing any human had ever built. Smooth curves instead of sharp angles, no visible seams or bolts. It hummed with energy that made the hair on their arms stand up. Sora walked around it slowly, studying every detail. Her eyes were wide with wonder. "It's beautiful," she whispered. The team loaded their equipment. Weapons, medical supplies, food and water for 2 weeks, communication gear, everything they might need and more. As they boarded, Tiho took one last look at Earth. The sun was rising, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Birds sang in the trees outside the hangar. Somewhere, people were waking up to start their normal days. He wondered if he would see it again. Then he turned and walked onto the ship. The door closed behind him. The engine hummed louder. And for the first time in human history, a ship carrying Earth's warriors rose into the sky. The Deathworlders were on their way. 3 million Velari waited in darkness, hoping that help would arrive in time. And somewhere in the void between stars, 12 humans traveled toward a destiny none of them could have imagined. The galaxy would never be the same. The journey took 3 days. 3 days of traveling faster than light, crossing distances that the human mind could barely understand. 3 days of preparing for something none of them had ever faced. The ship was strange inside. The walls curved in ways that felt wrong. The chairs were too small and too soft. The air had a sweet smell that made some team members sneeze, but the humans adapted. They always did. Hana spent most of the journey studying the data the aliens had sent. She learned about the Velari, their language, their culture, their history. She learned that they were artists who created music that could make entire species weep with joy. She learned that they had never fought a war in 10,000 years of recorded history. And she learned that they were dying. "The Krath are using them for sport," she told Tiho quietly on the second night. "They're not trying to take the planet. They're not trying to steal resources. They're just hunting for fun." Tiho said nothing. His jaw tightened and something cold settled in his eyes. On the morning of the 3rd day, the ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The crew gathered at the viewing window to see their destination. Velari 7 was beautiful. It was smaller than Earth, with purple oceans and continents covered in silver forests. 2 moons hung in the sky, pale and glowing. Cities sparkled on the surface, their spires reaching toward the stars. But something was wrong. Smoke rose from several cities. Dark shapes moved in the streets. Fires burned where there should have been lights. "That's the main colony," Sora said, pointing to the largest city. "Population 1.5 million, or it was." "Any word from the surface?" Tiho asked. "Faint signals from underground shelters. They're still alive, some of them. Tiho turned to his team. Their faces were hard, ready. We go in fast, he said. Sora will drop us through the atmosphere. It's going to be rough. The ship wasn't designed for combat insertion. I can handle it, Sora said confidently. Once we're on the ground, we split into 4 groups. Minyu, you take point with heavy weapons. Yuna stays with me for medical support. Doyun, I need you to find their power systems. If we can restore electricity, we can give the survivors a chance to communicate. Hana, your job is to make contact with the Velari leadership. We need information. Everyone nodded. One more thing, Tiho added. The Velari are scared of us. They've never seen anything like humans. We might frighten them as much as the Krath do, so be gentle. Move slowly when you can. Let Hana speak first. We're here to help, not to make things worse. The ship descended toward the planet. As it entered the atmosphere, it began to shake violently. Alarms sounded. Warning lights flashed. The temperature inside rose rapidly. Any normal species would have been terrified. The ship's designers had never intended for this kind of entry. It was dangerous, reckless, and potentially deadly. The humans laughed. This is nothing, Minyu shouted over the noise. Remember that training exercise in the Philippines, the one where the helicopter caught fire. I remember you screaming like a child, Yuna replied. That was the wind in my face. The ship burst through the clouds and leveled out over the ruined city. Below, streets that had once been peaceful were now war zones. Buildings had collapsed. Bodies lay in the open. The Krath had been thorough. Sora brought the ship down in a small plaza, dodging debris and fallen structures. The landing was hard enough to throw everyone against their restraints, but they were down. They were alive. The door opened. Earth's atmosphere was different from this planet's, but the human suits had filters. They could breathe. They could function. Tiho was first out. He moved low and fast, scanning for threats. The air was warm, much warmer than the reports had suggested. The gravity was light, maybe 60% of Earth's. He felt like he could jump over buildings. Clear, he said quietly. Move out. The team fanned into the city. They moved in silence, communicating through hand signals. To any observer, they would have looked like ghosts, shadows that drifted between ruins without making a sound. They found the first Krath patrol within 10 minutes. There were 5 of them, tall, scaled, carrying weapons that looked like curved blades attached to long handles. They were laughing. One of them was dragging something behind it. Tiho did not look closely at what it was. He gave the signal. Minyu opened fire first. His weapon was loud in the quiet city, but the fight was over in seconds. The Krath barely had time to turn around before they fell. Their scales, which had seemed so thick and protective, did nothing against bullets designed to pierce armored vehicles. Confirmed kills, Minyu reported. 5 targets down. They kept moving. The bunker entrance was hidden beneath a collapsed temple. Hana found it by following faint signals on her scanner. Tiho cleared the rubble while Doyun checked for traps. It's not trapped, Doyun said. I don't think they know how to make traps. They descended into darkness. Emergency lights flickered along the walls. The tunnel stretched deep underground, branching into dozens of smaller passages. Somewhere ahead, voices echoed. Alien voices, high and musical, filled with fear. Hana stepped forward. She activated her translator device and spoke carefully. We come in peace. We are from Earth. We are here to help. Silence. Then slowly figures emerged from the shadows. The Velari were smaller than Tiho had expected. They barely reached his chest. Their skin was pale blue, almost transparent. He could see their blood vessels, their fragile bones, the rapid flutter of their hearts. They looked at him with huge, terrified eyes. One of them stepped forward. He was older than the others, with lines on his face and gray in his thin hair. His name was Oris, and he had once been a teacher of music. "You are human?" Oris asked. His voice trembled. "Yes," Hana answered gently. "We received your message. We came as fast as we could." Oris stared at her, at all of them. His eyes moved from face to face, taking in details that clearly frightened him. Their forward-facing eyes, their thick bodies, the way they stood perfectly balanced even in the tunnel's uneven floor. "You are the Deathworlders," he whispered, "the ones from the Poison World." "We call it Earth," Tiho said. He knelt down slowly, bringing himself closer to Oris's height. The old alien flinched but did not run. "And yes, our world is harsh, but we did not come here to hurt you. We came because you asked for help." "The Krath," Oris began. "We've already encountered them," Tiho said. "They die just like anything else." Something changed in Oris's eyes. Not hope exactly, but the beginning of it. "How many of you are there?" Oris asked. 12. The old alien made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. 12 against 2,000. "We've faced worse odds." It was a lie, but it was a good lie. The kind of lie that soldiers told to keep people from giving up. Oris looked at the humans for a long moment. Then he turned to his people, the hundreds of Velari hiding in the darkness behind him. "They are not here to hunt us," he said. "They are here to hunt the hunters." A murmur spread through the crowd. Some Velari still looked terrified, but others looked at the humans with something new, something that might, with time, become gratitude. Tiho stood up. He checked his weapon, adjusted his gear, and looked at his team. "Hana, stay here. Learn everything you can. Find out where the Krath are concentrated, how they move, what they're planning." "Understood." "Everyone else with me. We have work to do." He walked toward the tunnel exit. Behind him, the Velari watched the humans leave. These strange, terrifying creatures from a world of nightmares. And somewhere in the ruined city above, the Krath continued their hunt. They did not know that the prey had changed. They did not know that something far more dangerous than them had arrived. They would learn soon enough. The first day on Velari 7 had been about survival. The second day was about war. Tiho spent the night in the bunker, listening to Hana translate the stories of the Velari survivors. What he heard made his blood burn with cold anger. The Krath were not just invaders. They were players in a game. They had rules, competitions, points for different kinds of kills. The Velari were not enemies to them. They were targets in a sport. By morning, Tiho had a plan. "The Krath have a command center in the old concert hall," Hana reported. "It's in the center of the city. Their leader is there. His name is Gal. He's the one organizing the hunts." "How many guards?" Minyu asked. "At least 50 around the building at all times. More inside." Doyun whistled. "That's a lot of targets." "We're not going to attack the building directly," Tiho said. "That would be suicide. Instead, we're going to make them come to us. We're going to hunt the hunters." The plan was simple but effective. The humans would spread out through the city. They would strike Krath patrols one after another, disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. Each attack would be fast, brutal, and terrifying. The goal was not just to kill. The goal was to create fear. "The Krath have never faced a predator before," Tiho explained. "They've always been the strongest, the fastest, the most dangerous. They don't know what it feels like to be prey. We're going to teach them." They moved out at dawn. The first patrol they found was near the Eastern Market District. 8 Krath, armed and arrogant, walking openly through the streets. They were not looking for threats. They did not believe threats existed. Minyu and 2 others hit them from above, firing from a collapsed building. 4 Krath fell before the others knew what was happening. The survivors tried to run. They did not get far. The second patrol was larger. 15 warriors escorting what looked like a supply vehicle. Doyun had planted explosives along their route during the night. When the vehicle passed, the entire street collapsed beneath it. The third patrol was ambushed near a park. the fourth near a school, the fifth in what had once been a hospital. By noon, the Krath had lost over 40 warriors. They had not seen their enemy clearly even once. Panic spread through their ranks. Reports came back to Gal at the command center. Reports of invisible attackers. Reports of warriors who had survived dozens of hunts dying in seconds. Reports of something new, something wrong. Gal was old for a Krath. He had led hundreds of hunts on dozens of worlds. He had never lost. The idea that something could challenge him was almost impossible to understand. But he was not stupid. "The prey has called for help," he announced to his lieutenants. "Someone has come to protect them, something dangerous." He stood from his throne, a chair made from the bones of previous victims. "Find them, kill them, bring me proof." 500 Krath warriors poured into the city. They moved in large groups now, too many to ambush easily. They searched every building, every tunnel, every shadow. The humans adapted. "They're learning," Una observed. She was treating a minor wound on one of the team members, a cut from debris during the last engagement. "They're not as dumb as we hoped." "Doesn't matter," Tiho replied. "Smart or dumb, they still bleed." The next encounter was different. A Krath hunting party cornered Minyu's squad in a ruined shopping center. There was no way to escape, no clever trick to pull, just a straight fight. 50 Krath against 4 humans. Minyu smiled. The fight lasted 7 minutes. It felt like 7 hours. The Krath were fast, strong, and they knew how to use their weapons. But the humans were faster, stronger, and they did not stop. A Krath blade caught Minyu in the shoulder. It went deep, scraping bone. He shot the attacker in the face with his free hand and kept fighting. Una arrived midway through with reinforcements. She killed 3 Krath while running toward Minyu to assess his wound. "It's bad," she said, looking at the damage. "It's fine," Minyu replied. "I've had worse." "You've never had worse. This is literally the worst wound I've ever seen you take." "Then I'll be more careful next time." When the fighting stopped, 47 Krath lay dead. 3 had fled. The humans had 3 injured, none dead. Word spread faster than fire. In the bunkers, the Velari heard the reports with disbelief. These creatures, these Deathworlders, had faced overwhelming numbers and won. They had been stabbed, cut, and beaten, and they simply continued fighting. One human had been seen running for 2 hours straight, drawing enemies away from a group of survivors. Another had lifted a collapsed beam that should have been too heavy for any living thing to move. They were not soldiers. They were something else entirely. Night fell on the city. The Krath retreated to their command center, afraid for the first time in their history. They had killed billions of creatures across dozens of worlds. They had never faced anything like this. Gal stood at his window, watching the dark streets below. He could see fires burning where his patrols had been ambushed. He could hear the silence where there should have been screaming. The hunt had changed. He was no longer the hunter. A message arrived at midnight. It was short, written in the Krath language, left on the body of a dead warrior outside the command center. "Tomorrow we finish this. Come to the central plaza at sunrise. Bring your best. We will be waiting." Gal read the message 3 times. Then he began to laugh. "Brave," he said to himself. "Foolish but brave." He would accept the challenge. He would face these Deathworlders himself. And when he killed them, when he displayed their bodies for all to see, the galaxy would remember why the Krath were feared. Sunrise came slowly. The sky turned from black to purple to orange. The central plaza was empty except for the rubble of what had once been a beautiful fountain. Tiho stood alone in the center. The Krath arrived in force. 200 warriors surrounded the plaza, weapons ready. Gal walked through their ranks, confident and calm. He was taller than the others, his scales darker, his claws longer. He stopped 20 meters from Tiho. "You are the leader of the Deathworlders?" Gal asked. "I am." "You killed many of my warriors." Yes. Gal tilted his head, studying the human. You are smaller than I expected. Your species must be weak. Tiho did not respond. I challenge you, Gal announced. Single combat. If you win, my warriors leave this world. If I win, we kill every Velari in those bunkers and take your body as a trophy. I accept. The warriors created a circle. Gal drew his weapon, a curved blade that had killed thousands. His muscles tensed. His eyes locked onto his target. He moved. Gal was fast, faster than any creature Tiho had faced before. The blade whistled through the air, aimed at the human's throat. It missed. Tiho stepped sideways, caught Gal's arm, and twisted. The joint bent wrong, bones cracked. The weapon fell. Gal roared and struck with his other arm. Tiho blocked the blow, feeling the impact vibrate through his bones. It would have killed any Velari instantly. It barely made him take a step back. Then Tiho attacked. In the next 11 seconds, he broke Gal's remaining arm, shattered his knee, and knocked him to the ground. The Krath leader lay in the dirt, gasping, unable to understand what had happened. Tiho drew his knife. You called us Deathworlders, he said quietly. You were right. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day of our lives. We grew strong because we had no choice. We became dangerous because anything less meant death. He knelt beside Gal, pressing the blade against the alien's throat. But we also learned something else. We learned to protect, to defend, to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. You hunt for sport, we fight for survival. There is a difference. Gal's eyes were wide with terror. Please. Your warriors will leave this world, Tiho said. They will never return. If they do, we will come back. And next time we will not be so merciful. He stood up. Gal lay broken on the ground, alive but defeated. The Krath warriors stared at their fallen leader. Then, one by one, they began to retreat. Within an hour, they were boarding their ships. Within 2 hours, they were gone. The sky above Velari 7 was clear again. And in the ruins of the central plaza, a human stood alone, watching the enemy flee. Behind him, in bunkers throughout the city, 3 million Velari began to realize that they might actually survive. The Deathworlders had kept their promise. The days after the battle were quiet, a different kind of quiet than before, not the silence of fear, but the silence of peace beginning to return. The Velari emerged from their bunkers slowly, like small animals checking if a storm had passed. They walked through the ruins of their city with tears in their eyes. They counted their dead. They mourned what they had lost. But they also began to hope. The humans helped in ways none of the Velari expected. Doyan worked for 3 days straight to restore power to the emergency shelters. Lights flickered back to life. Water systems began working again. The darkness retreated. Yuna set up a medical station in what had once been a school. She treated hundreds of Velari patients, learning their biology as she worked, adapting human medicine to alien bodies. Many would have died without her. She did not sleep for nearly a week. Minyu, despite his shoulder wound, spent his time clearing debris from the streets. He lifted things that Velari machines could barely move. They watched him in awe, this wounded creature working harder than any of them could imagine. Sora flew rescue missions to remote areas of the colony where survivors had been hiding. She brought them food, water, and something more valuable, the news that the nightmare was over. And Hana stayed. I want to learn more about your people, she told Elder Oris. I want to understand you, and I want you to understand us. Oris looked at her with his large, gentle eyes. Are you not afraid that we fear you? I am afraid, Hana admitted. But fear can become something else, given time, given patience. They spent hours together talking. Hana learned about Velari art, their music, their dreams. Oris learned about Earth, its harsh beauty, its endless struggle for survival. They did not agree on everything, but they listened, and that was enough. Tiho stayed apart from the others. He sat on a hill outside the city, watching the twin moons rise over the purple sea. His body was tired. His mind was tired, but something else kept him awake. Oris found him there on the fifth night. The old Velari walked slowly, carefully, as if approaching a wild animal. He stopped a few meters away and did not speak. "You can come closer," Tiho said. "I don't bite." Oris made a sound that might have been a nervous laugh. He came forward and sat down beside the human. For a long moment, they watched the moons together in silence. "May I ask you something?" Oris finally said. "Of course. Why did you come?" Tiho thought about the question. It was simple, but the answer was not. "Because you asked for help," he said at last. "But you did not know us. We are strangers. We are different." "Yes." "Then why risk your lives? Why travel across the stars to fight for people you have never met?" Tiho picked up a small stone from the ground. He turned it over in his fingers, watching the moonlight play across its surface. "On my world," he began, "there is something we call duty. It means doing what is right even when it is hard, even when it costs you. My grandfather was a soldier, so was my father. They taught me that strength exists for a purpose, not to dominate, not to destroy, but to protect." He threw the stone. It arced through the low gravity and landed far away. "When we received your message, some people said we should ignore it. They said it was not our problem. They said we should protect ourselves first and let the galaxy handle its own affairs." He paused. "But I could not stop thinking about your voice, the fear in it, the desperation. You sounded like every person who has ever called for help and wondered if anyone would answer." Oris was silent. Tears had begun to form in his eyes, floating gently in the light gravity. "So I answered," Tiho finished simply, "because that is what people should do. That is what strength is for." The old alien wiped his eyes with a thin hand. "Your world must be a strange place, violent and dangerous, but also kind." "It is both," Tiho agreed. "We are both, monsters and protectors, killers and healers. We never learned how to be just one thing." They sat together until the moons had crossed half the sky. Then Oris stood slowly and faced the human. "Thank you," he said, "not just for saving my people, but for showing me that the galaxy is bigger than I thought, that even the things we fear most can be the things that save us." He reached out one trembling hand. After a moment, Tiho took it gently. The Velari's fingers felt like paper, fragile and light, but the grip was firm. "My people will remember this," Oris said. "We will tell stories of the Deathworlders who came from the darkness, who were terrifying and gentle, who fought like storms but healed like summer rain. Our children will learn that monsters can also be heroes." The next morning, a transmission arrived from the Galactic Union. The Council had watched the events on Velari 7 with great interest. They had seen the recordings, they had heard the reports, and they had made a decision. Earth's quarantine was lifted. "We were wrong about you," Ambassador Lyell's recorded message said. "We saw your strength and thought only of danger. We saw your history and thought only of violence, but we did not see the whole truth. You came when we called. You fought for strangers. You showed mercy to enemies who deserved none. This is not the behavior of monsters. This is the behavior of guardians." The message continued. The Galactic Union was inviting humanity to join their alliance, not as threats to be contained, but as protectors to be welcomed. Other species had already begun asking if Earth might send help to their own troubled worlds. Tiho listened to the message with his team gathered around him. When it ended, Minyu spoke first. "So we're not quarantined anymore. That's nice." "It means paperwork," Yuna muttered. "Diplomatic relations, politics." "It means more missions," Doyan added. "More worlds that need help." Sora shrugged. "Sounds like job security to me." Only Hana did not joke. She was looking out at the recovering city, watching Velari workers rebuild their homes alongside human volunteers. It means we have a choice, she said quietly. We can stay isolated on Earth, safe and alone, or we can be part of something larger, something that needs us. Tiho nodded. The galaxy learned something about us this week. They learned that we're dangerous, but they also learned that we're willing to help. That combination might be exactly what they need. The ship that would take them home was repaired and ready. But before they left, the Velari organized a ceremony. It was held in the ruins of the concert hall that had been Gaal's command center. Now it was filled not with weapons and trophies, but with music. Hundreds of Velari gathered to play an ancient song. Their instruments made sounds that humans had never heard before, haunting and beautiful, full of sadness and hope. The 12 humans stood at the center of the gathering, uncomfortable with the attention, but unwilling to refuse the honor. Elder Oris spoke for his people. You came to us as strangers, you leave as friends. You came to us as warriors, you leave as heroes. The Velari do not have a tradition of making medals or giving titles. We are artists, not soldiers. So we give you the only thing we have, our music. This song will be remembered forever. It will be played at gatherings and festivals across our worlds, and it will be called The Coming of the 12, so that no one ever forgets what you did for us. The music swelled. It filled the ruined hall and spilled out into the streets. It rose into the sky and seemed to touch the very stars. Tiho felt something he had not expected to feel, not pride exactly, something deeper, a sense that his life, all the training and fighting and sacrifice had meant something, had been for something. He looked at his team, at Yuna, who had saved lives instead of taking them, at Minyu, who had laughed through pain because giving up was not in his nature, at Hana, who had built bridges between species that had every reason to fear each other, at Doyun and Sara and all the others. They had come as weapons, they were leaving as something else. The ship rose from Velari 7 at sunset. The planet shrank behind them, purple and silver and scarred but healing. Ahead the stars waited, billions of them, countless worlds with countless problems, a galaxy that had learned to fear Earth's children and was now learning to trust them. So what happens now? Minyu asked, looking out at the void. Tiho considered the question. 3 days ago, he had been a retired soldier drinking tea in his apartment. Now he was part of something that would change human history. Now we go home, he said. We report to the generals, we answer questions, and then... Then, Yuna prompted. Tiho smiled. It was a rare thing, that smile, but real. Then we wait for the next call for help, because there will be another one, and another after that. The galaxy is vast and full of trouble, and apparently when things get bad, Earth is the one they call. The ship accelerated toward the stars. Behind it, a grateful world began to rebuild. Ahead, a universe of possibility opened up. The Deathworlders were going home. But something told Tiho they would be back. There would always be another species in danger, another world that needed protecting, another voice crying out in the darkness. And Earth would answer. That was what strength was for.